Hi guys, welcome back. Today is July 19th, 2025, and this is vlog number 4 of my new behind the scenes series where I take you guys into my week to week in real time action, what's going on with both clients and development in my AI products. As with all my other vlogs, I'm going to keep the structure the exact same so you can skip ahead to whatever section interests you. I'm going to start with the recap first. Then I'm going to move into what happened this week on the client side. Then I'll go into what happened this week in development. And then I'll round it all up at the end with what's going to go on with my plans for next week. Okay, so let's start with the recap. The project we're working on right now is the AIWOS AI warehouse oversight system. What it does is it integrates existing security cameras with warehouse management systems and their existing transportation systems, internal communications, and works them all together so that the client can use it as a tool to work alongside their existing equipment. So where we left off was I was waiting to meet with the higher ups in the company. All the work I've done until now was direct in connection with the CIO of the company, the person who knows all the ins and outs, the data flow and all that. And I was setting up the system, and I was asked by them to come up with a demo to provide to the upper management, the people who okay it for installation and the money, you know. Whenever you deal with these bigger clients and stuff, it's going to take some time. There's multiple meetings and stuff. So I developed that video last week. I told you guys about that. And this week, I finally had a chance to go meet with the owner of the company. I had my little 3-minute demo, and I was prepared with everything. That demo really didn't do much, but what did do much is the 10-minute conversation afterwards. When that sparked interest, and I was able to relate to that client one-on-one with their issues and truly how they're going to interact with it. What's good here is the owners of this company love internal communication system. In this case, they use Teams. So they Teams message everyone all the time. Well, that plays right into my hand because my system is integrated with the internal communications so that they can communicate directly through that as if it's an employee of the company. So when they send it any query, such as how many orders got completed today, the system will respond back through Teams with the exact answer. Now they got excited. Now they started to see the value in the system. Then I started to explain how, because we watch everything that goes on, all the orders, the units, the timestamps, everything is tracked. It brings in all the abilities of KPI and analytics for them. Well, this changed everything. What went from a simple little demo, kind of to now the wheels started turning for the client. I got the green light my goal here was to get a green light to install my system in one warehouse in Georgia. When I walked out of this meeting 30 minutes later, I had the green light to install this system in 3 warehouses, not 1, but 3. Georgia, LA, and Chicago. They want it rolled out, proven at 1, repeated at 2 more. Which just is perfect for me, because for me to scale this larger, I not only need a pilot site, I need to prove repeatability. I got it all in one shot this week. So as far as the client side, I was singing and dancing this week. It could not have went any better. I've got 3 warehouses to roll out on, and they want it done fast. So we're flying out this week. So that's the client side. Now let's talk about the dev. That being said, everything got accelerated this week. One, I have to stop doing all of my work here on my main rig in my office, which is geared up with crazy cool GPU, and it can process frames and stuff really quick. Now I'm going to be out remotely doing the install on a laptop that's just not going to be able to do that. So I've got to prepare everything to go full cloud processing. So that led me to this week having to go really deep into deciding which cloud service I want to go with. Now, all small projects before, this wasn't an important decision. Now it is, because now I'm processing large amounts of data through the cloud, high processing fees, and I've got to pick the right provider that could truly gear towards the architecture of my system. So of course I started going over the big three, and Azure, Google, Amazon Web Service, and analyzing all the features they really had. And I decided, as you can see up here already, Amazon Web Service. Kinesis is literally designed for the core architecture I need. Mind you, all of them could have done what I needed, but this ability for not only the input pipeline of video, they have the ability to scale to any size I need, the security is built in, everything. It's a true good platform for us to use for our system. So that took a little time to decide and process that. Got that done. Once we figured out that, then we had to start preparing to transition everything into the cloud. And that's a lot of work. There's a lot to that. We did that. It's almost ready to go. I mean, from setting up an account to selecting the resources it's just a lot. I also had to set up the ability for a laptop to be ready to go and run the systems I need. So I set up basically a one command prompt setup so that it will install Python, install the pip dependencies, secure all of the secure credentials it's going to need in order to make all the communications with the different systems, the requirements needed for the system to operate, so that we have a consistent setup. Every time someone runs it, it's going to use the same setup, the same permissions. Okay, so we got that done, got that ready. What else do we do? Tracking system. Last week we determined that my use of existing pre-trained models just was not cutting it. I was getting lots of failures, and we, through lots of testing, I've decided that it's just not going to cut it, and I had to redesign my tracking and system into a hybrid tracking system. What was good about it was its ability to track people. Excellent. You know, I can identify a person, and no matter what, within a single frame, it's like, that's a person, that's a person. I don't know what anything else is. But that's a problem for me, because I needed to know what everything is. Okay? So I designed a hybrid tracking system. This will be tracking equipment on one side through QR tracking, and then using some of these pre-trained models to track people. Now comes one thing: when you're designing these, you always have to consider how much processing you're doing with all these models and back-end stuff. And you have to consider how you can limit that and reduce and eliminate redundancy in there. I guess that's the best way of saying it. I did a lot of that work this week. By creating a persistent tracking system, I was able to use, I started with motion gating and image comparators. You know, those two combined, I was able to detect specific things that move from frame to frame and moment to moment. Then once I've identified what I'm looking for, I used persistent tracking at that point. So I added another system into there to use persistent tracking. Once I'm persistent tracking this stuff, I no longer need to use these high-end models to analyze every frame. So I was able to switch it down into a lighter format of tracking. This really lightened up my processing requirements on through the cloud and everything else. So my processing time is speeding up, just like some of the implementations we did last week in there. So the hybrid tracking has been a really good addition. What else did we do this week? I designed and set up a SKU training system. Okay, once the system's up and running, it has to really not only understand the flow of the movement of what goes on in the facility, I want it to be able to look at any pallet of merchandise and say, that is X amount of this product. Well, in order for it to do that, it has to learn it. It has to learn what the product looks like, exterior identifiers, dimensions, all that stuff, so that when it's seen, both being packaged and loaded or being transported, it can identify that. So I developed a system that uses QR generated codes to train the system in the SKUs. So that was set up. That took a little while to do, but we got it set up. That's going to be working good. And when I get to the site, I'll be setting up what's called a capture zone, where the product will be entered into that area, moved around a couple times. All of that gets tracked, all the identifiers, where the serial numbers are, so that the system knows exactly where to look on that unit to either find a serial number or a model number or anything it needs to capture off of that in order to keep track of how many there were and where they get moved to. Okay, so we developed that system in there today, this week. What else? What else did we do this week? I guess that's about it. So yeah, moving on. What's coming up next week is we're flying out to Georgia. I am going to be bringing out some new PTZ cameras that have the ability to zoom in very good and capture fine print on packaging where the existing security cameras just can't do. I'll be setting up what I just described as a capture zone, both for the loading and receiving area and for training zones. And just running a few more cameras where their coverage just isn't really good after I've gone through all the cameras on the DVR. So, like I said, we're flying out next week. This week I have to finish, before I fly out, I have to finish a lot. I have got to finish the complete cloud integration. Everything has to be in the cloud, because when I get there, I'm going to be on a laptop and I won't be able to do half this stuff. So I have to be able to have everything processing through the cloud. So that means I've got to set up a temporary API connection into the DVR so I can get all my site stuff worked out. Prepare it because I'm going to be bypassing the existing DVR in the future with all my cameras I'm putting in. So the security will be a standalone system. I'll just be taking some of the images off of there, but utilizing my higher end cameras for what I truly need. So that's going to be happening up there. So I got to get everything in the cloud. I've got to get all of my integrations set up and everything ready to go. So it's going to be a busy week. I will get back in touch with you next week. It's been a busy, but it's been a very, very, very good week. You know, I'm glad I started this series. I started it for you guys, but in reality, I think I'm going to be more appreciative that I did it for myself, because I'll be able to look back 6 months from now, a year from now, and see where I was, what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong, and where I've gone in my growth. You know, it's always good to have this type of thing you can reflect back on. And now that my original plan of just doing a behind the scenes for one little project, one warehouse, I'm going to keep you guys in here and keep these vlogs going so that you guys can follow the progress through all 3 sites, the completion of them, and where we go from there. You never know. Maybe it'll get big. Let's hope. I'll see you guys next week, and have a good week, you guys. Bye.